want to innovate, but they don't want to fail, right?
Is that, like when you're doing discovery right, I think one of the key elements that it helps you achieve is it helps you become an empowered team. And
well, good evening, ladies and gents. Okay, so thank you very much. I feel very humbled with that intro. So yeah, my background is industrial design. So originally, industrial design is traditionally spoken, you build products. So you're an engineer, but a creative engineer. So my whole vision for my career was always to build something physical, tangible, before interfaces were really a big thing. UX was a thing, but industrial design was more about getting a job at Nike, designing trainers, doing sports, that type of thing. Or if you joined an automotive company like Jaguar Land Rover. So that was kind of my vision for the career. Graduated, there was a recession, and I was like, uh-oh, I don't have a job. So fortunately, we touched upon UX as one of our classes at university. The good thing about where I went to Loughborough in the UK. Is anyone familiar with that university? Yeah, awesome. See 2 hands. So Loughborough at the time was the best design school at the time for industrial design. So standard Asian family, get the best grades, go to the best school, get the best job and become an engineer. So that's kind of where my path was going. And then fortunately O2 came to my university at the time, and they were running a competition, and they basically said, we want to create an app that allows customers to make payments using their mobile phone. So this is before Apple Pay, before all of these types of products were out there. So the good thing is there was no constraints in my mind. I hadn't seen any products like this before, so I could create the art of the possible, and lo and behold, it went to market, they built it. But this is a good example of failure as well, because we were too early to the market. O2 money wasn't trusted as a financial service. O2 is a telco, so why are they in the finance market? So that product was a complete flop, but it was a good proof in terms of where design can get you, where disruption can get you as well. So that's kind of a very quick background intro as to how I got into UX. So tonight I just want to keep it kind of short and sweet, because I know everyone's on the hump day, it's Wednesday. And of course it's in the evening, so and you've all been solving creative problems all day. So tonight I just want to talk to you briefly about the true power of experience design. It was originally meant to be about UX, and we at Do have, well, I say we, when I first joined Do, it was a UX design team. It was a tiny, tiny team. They had a legacy team there, but the digital transformation had to happen because they have to move with times. So a brand new team was created, brand new budgets, brand new squads, talent from around the world, from the US, Australia, UK, Europe, everyone coming together. And I rebranded it to Experience Design and built the practice from there. So I just want to talk you through this. So really the talk is about digital transformation. So hands in the air if you've heard of a digital transformation before. Okay, so the majority of you, and how many have actually been a part of a digital transformation? So quite a few as well. So you know it's incredibly difficult. Like, it's one of the hardest things as a creative to go through, as a company to go through, because there's so much on the line. The main concern, really, and McKinsey did a study with 100 CEOs and executives. This is going back 3 years back, so just after COVID. And the one concern was about risk of change, risk of it flopping and losing jobs, risk of losing money, revenue. There were so many reasons why risk was at the forefront of why digital transformation isn't going to be successful. And I don't blame them, because 70% of digital transformations actually do fail, which is pretty high. So in 2022, $1.3 trillion was spent just on digital transformation. So that's a huge amount. And the reason for this is there's new companies coming up, startups, which is awesome. We need startups, we need those cultures, we need people to really disrupt parts of the market. But 1.3 trillion was spent, but of that, 900 billion was lost. So it's a huge amount. And what that means for us creatives is we tend to be one of the first teams to get the cut, which tends to be the case. Because as creatives, we often are seen as the cherry on top. We aren't the spear, the point of the spear. So that's kind of the challenge that I had when I first joined Do. And where are my 80s babies or 90s babies? Who remembers Blockbuster? Yeah? So that reminiscence, nostalgia, I miss it, but it was awesome. But Blockbuster is a good example of why you need to digital transform successfully. And move with the times and innovate. It's not just the designer's job, it's also the business's job to innovate. And product discovery, for example, is a good reason for that. You can discover where there's gaps and where the company needs to start moving. So why did they fail? Well, Netflix came about. They didn't move with the times. They didn't innovate. And that's one of the biggest challenges. So Blockbuster, they were $1 billion in debt. And well, if we look at Netflix, actually Netflix is 79.72 billion now. This is an old slide, but yeah, they're doing incredibly well. I'm sure everyone's got a subscription here. So why does this happen? So digital transformations tend to not work out mainly because of three really key factors. One of them being little to no change management strategy. So change management is a boring business term, and as designers, we need to start speaking more about business. We are business designers. That's the only way you can influence a multi-billion-dollar company. It's the only way. With little to no change management, what happens is people within the existing organization don't know what's going to happen. They're not on board with the vision. They don't know the strategy. Why are we doing this? Are we going to lose our job? Our app works, our website works. We're killing it with the finances. We're getting the revenue through the door. But is that really going to work out? Probably not, and that's why digital transformation is needed. But with a management strategy, with a change management strategy, you're 6 times more likely to succeed. So it's really important to have that. And then, show of hands, how many people have been in this position where it's tech-led and not experience-led? Yeah, pretty much all of us, huh? And that's a pain. So one of the main reasons why digital transformations fail is because they tend to get tech involved early on without creating that future state vision. And then in terms of the actual 4 Ps of this, so the first thing that you need to do in order to make this work, and it doesn't matter if you're at a small startup, whether you're at an agency, a consultancy, or a product company, start off with the people. Who do you need to actually make this work? The MVP people, the basics. Start with the basics. Then you go into the portfolio. What type of products do you want to create? What is it that we're actually trying to do? And not always looking at your competitor and saying, oh, they've got a really cool app, we need that, or we need this feature because they have it. Do it for your market. And then in terms of the process, our user experience process. For example, how many people actually follow the double diamond to the T? Very few. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, yeah. So unfortunately, it doesn't really work that way in a company, right? The double diamond, it's there to guide us, but most days we don't get the luxury to do proper discover, design, develop, deliver, and then iterate and come back. So the process needs to be established on how you're going to work around this agile methodology. And then finally, the platform. Do we have the platform there? Is the tech there? What do we need? And so on and so forth. And then the last one is doing too much too fast all at once because the CEO wants everything by September and we're already in August. So it's one of those. But you've probably heard this buzzword, agile. I don't know what that is. No, it's a lovely term, but being agile is being able to adapt to what comes at a certain period of time. So you need to be able to adapt with the movement and actually foresee that before it's coming up. So that's really what it is. So tonight I changed it again. It was going to be about digital transformation, but it's actually design transformation. So make it relatable to us and what actually happened at our end. I will go through these very at a high level, really, because I know the time and it's very, very small. But for example, the reason for the power of experience design is that there's so many use cases and case studies of successful design. One of them being with Adobe, and A company with a strong design presence outperforms every other company by 219% in the S&P. So anybody, like, for example, we mentioned like Spotify, Airbnb, and so on and so forth. If they aren't putting design first, they wouldn't be where they are now. So it's super important. One of the other ones, we're tied to media. So 48% of people surveyed said that the website design of business, for their business, was their #1 factor in determining the credibility of that brand. So there are so many case studies, and feel free to take a photo of it, and I'll find a way to share it with you guys, but there's some really good case studies with this. So just to kind of give a bit of a background, and Amber did an amazing job, and I feel very humble. Thank you so much. I started my career at O2, so I started in product, and then I worked my way through agency, consulting, and then I ended up back in product. Now, the reason for this is because Do were going through a digital transformation, but they were doing it the right way. They were starting from the ground up because there were so many pain points, and we're aware of them. What happened is they created a brand new team purely focused on solving this future state experience. And I'd love to show you the screens, but unfortunately I can't because they're in the making at the moment. But that's kind of the brief overview. And we started off here. So the power of experience design. We were that tiny little table there, and there were 3 designers. So when I first joined and they said, yeah, Kizz, come on board, lead PwC, and you're gonna lead the experience design practice. And I rock up and there was 3 of us. I was like, great, I should have done a site visit before the interview. So I quickly realized that experience, or UX, was a service for the team. It was to get the requirements from the business, all of these 15 years worth of pain points, and fix them and deliver to a backlog. And it just wasn't going to be successful if we do it that way. It's hard work. I knew what was coming. So what we ended up doing was really trying to understand, how do we actually get the stakeholders on board and actually get the respect that design deserves? And how many of you can relate to that? Like trying to get respect at work and trying to get everyone on board and go, yes, this is the right way to go. Because the design team, it's like a double-edged sword. We're the cool guys that create the future. Everyone wants us for amazing presentations and inspire everyone. But at the same time, you kind of like do the job and go. So, show of hands, design isn't taken seriously where I work, right? And how do I get them to listen? Do you ever feel like that? And do you ever feel like, how do I convince them to change? Right? It's a shared pain point as creatives. And they want to innovate, but they don't want to fail, right? And it's difficult. And it takes really strong designers to actually be in transformations. So you have to be a design transformer. So one of the best things, I don't know, show of hands, has anyone seen Return to Space on Netflix? All right, this guy, good man. I recommend order a pizza from Pitfire, watch it, it's really good. So one of the things that Elon Musk mentions quite heavily in the documentary is failure. So every time they failed shooting a rocket up into space, it was his own money that he was actually putting into this. And every time, I think it was like 500 million, every time they sent a rocket, and they were running out of budget. And the interviewer goes, well, you're almost out of money, you've got 1 rocket left, is it really worth it? And he goes, well, every failure we do, we learn how to do it better the next time. And funny enough, the last rocket that went up into space and landed correctly, unmanned as well, ended up actually making SpaceX what it is today. So please watch that. It was really inspiring. And also, if you've been inspired by it, then share it with your leadership as well. Because one thing we have started to introduce in the digital transformation is actually sharing this with the senior leadership. Being the designers that don't just inspire the team, inspire your upper ups. How many people have heard this? I want a 2-click experience. Yeah? I can't stand that. Right, so we already know as designers, our goal is to get a customer from A to B with as little friction as possible. But in some cases, you do need more than 2 to 3 clicks. So these are just some of the battles that we face on a day-to-day basis, because they're used to their old mental model, something that's outdated. And what was mentioned earlier, customers are used to scrolling now. the behaviours change. And how many people here, where's the wow factor? Not again. Right, the reason why is Steve Jobs, here we go. He had to make an appearance. So design is not just what it looks like and feels like, design is how it works. So even Spotify started off like this. So it's okay to go live with an MVP. So why do you want the wow factor today when we aren't getting the basics right? And this is where Spotify are today. But that's because they had that design methodology in their mindset and they transformed. So I wanted to share with you just 5 quick learnings from my journey or my 15-year career in design transformations. So I've been blessed to build experience design practices, not just for product companies, but also for government companies in Saudi, Qatar, Kuwait, very blessed. But some of the key learnings are so similar. There's a lot of correlation with them. So lesson 1, design strategy is critical, even at a team level. So even as creatives, if you feel that your company isn't taking design seriously, because you can actually influence the direction of a company, focus on your strategy inside your team, right? Build the ways of working how you want to work. We started off, for example, as a service, building from a backlog. Now we're there to inspire the team. And that's rippling through how other teams are doing their presentations, how other teams are talking and giving their weekly reports. How we speak to the board is how we speak to the team. We're the same guys. We rock up in jeans, trainers and a t-shirt, but we speak facts and we speak about the business first. So this is what we're trying to do internally and it's working very successfully. One of the other areas is educate with the science of design. So as creatives, it's easy to discuss design and go, oh, they don't get it, or we should create this UI or this user experience, this interaction design pattern, or this design system. But how do you get funding for that? You need to, how many times actually do you speak with your business and they're like, well, we're taking too long to do this, just do it, ship it. It's very disheartening. But if you educate why you're doing it through, like for example, our UX laws, that's one way to get them on your side. User research is one other way, and doing proper benchmarking is another good way. Inspired by showcasing, so I encourage you, I don't know whether you do this already, but what we introduced in order to get a seat at the table was showcase our work. Showcase mini case studies once a month. And we do that to the whole of the company. So we have almost 400 people join. We showcase as if we're doing a keynote, like an Apple type keynote. We decided let's lead by example. Let's not wait for someone else to say, yep, design is needed, but let's start now. As I mentioned, speaking the language of business. The executives, yes, they do benchmark and they see some really cool apps and they go, I want this app, I want to have the next Spotify or Airbnb. Awesome. That's a good vision to have. But our job is to get them there. So speaking the language of business allows us to get the stakeholder buy-in, get the funding, be able to hire the teams, scale the teams, be able to buy the right tools. For example, how many of the companies that you work with value learning and development? Yeah? Okay, so about 50-50. So one of the big things is when you speak the language of business, but through design, you can actually influence them and get the funding for that, and say we need to actually invest in our designers because they're the future of our company. They're going to take us to the next step, not for the next 5 years, but for the 10 years. And think about scalable design. So whenever we talk about design, we say, right, especially at Do, we talk about how it's quicker to build, it's faster to deliver, it's much more quicker to make changes. If we find from our discovery or from our research that we need to move a button from here to here, it's not a 1 week or 2 week delay, it's 3 hour delay. So that's why. And I showed you at the start where we started off at the back table, the coffee table at the back. This is the studio now, and we've done that in 2.5 years. And it's not just my doing, it's the team's doing too. And this is all of those 5 principles that we put into play that's got us here with the seat at the table. And now now we're almost at the point where it's experience-led rather than technology-led and rather than business-led. So this is where we're at today. And we started off just here, so we had only UX UI, and now or what I ended up doing was I pulled out the UX UI capabilities as one to product design. Is that best way that I could sell scaling the team as well. But also it's good having the same UX to do the UI for the type of projects we're on. We have content design, and I know there's a content designer there, so she's happy. So we really value content design because we're designing for multiple languages. We're designing for English, Arabic, we've got Russia in the future, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of languages we have to design for. We have design system where there's a huge amount of funding that I'm getting now into that. UI development, so we're building the real storybook so that we can actually start building. So basically the future vision is to have UX engineers so that we can build screens live. And then finally DesignOps. And just to kind of give you a quick overview of why there's a power of design or power of experience design. And you'll probably think, God, this guy talks a lot about numbers and business, because this is the only way to succeed in a corporate company. They aren't going to give us designers or creative problem solvers the respect unless you join an Apple or an established company that has a proper practice. Especially in this region, we have to educate a lot, but it makes us incredibly powerful designers, very powerful creative problem solvers. So over the next 5 years, after putting all of these changes in place and teams and processes, we're on track to save the company $3 million. We're now designing 3 times faster. We're now faster at onboarding new talent, 7 times faster, and 4 times faster at actually building the code now. So we're getting there, slowly, but a digital transformation, you have to take baby steps, 1 step at a time, but it takes a lot of tenacity. So this really is the true power of XD. I hope you enjoyed the talk, and I didn't bore you.